Hey there everyone, Hitesh here from LearnCodeOnline.in. So yes, I was a little bit busy yesterday, that's why I didn't post any video. It was a quick travel to the amazing Delhi, uh, and I was a little bit busy with some documentation stuff there. But the whole point is I'm back here and we're going to continue with our JavaScript series again. So it was a good travel. Let's just focus back again here. So the whole agenda for this particular video is to understand one more data type of JavaScript, which is fairly new as compared to the previous JavaScript. It was not at all present in our regular JavaScript or vanilla JavaScript, which usually everybody is familiar with. It's recently being added. It's amazing, and you will be loving it a lot. Also, I will be talking about one more type of loop, which is for/of loop. We have talked about for loop, we have talked about for each loop, but now we are going to be talking about for/of loop. Okay, so these are the two things that we'll be talking. Now let me also introduce one more fact here. A lot of people might be we will be talking about maps data types, so a lot of people will be kind of correlating it with objects or plain just object. Now let me give you a fact. These things, yes, do look almost exactly similar to the objects. I will be referring you some documentation so that you can find out some differences between them. I'll be pointing out some of them. The whole point of using the maps is if you're working on any kind of NoSQL database or literally just like MongoDB or Firebase, especially the Firebase, you will be loving this data type a lot because a lot of time we want to just pack some information and want to fetch that to the database. This particular thing is super helpful in those cases. And a lot of things that I want to really talk about it. So let's start our journey here and we'll be talking about this maps concept as well as the for/of loop. So let's get started here. So we have our files open up here. So let me just close them down. Okay. And what we'll be doing is we will be having it in our 01 advance. There we go. And we want a new file and we are going to call this as maps and for/of.js. That's a pretty long name, but I think we can do with that. Okay, so there we go. This is the first step. So let's pick up a simple example here. I know this is like made up example, but you'll be seeing this kind of almost similarish thing there. And I'll point out some of the points that you will be doing differently in the database there. So let's just say we have a simple example with a John, my favorite name, John Doe, Jane Doe. You might have realized that. So we have a simple John, and John is not just a variable, it's an object. Okay, so let's just say it has few properties, name, and in the name it says I am John. And John has a property of age, probably like pretty young guy, 24 maybe, young and experienced. And we're gonna say is active. So is he active on maybe some platform or not? So we're gonna just get it true. Okay. So this is your first information about John. So this is one object that we have. Sometimes information is like a lot of object sets that we need to either push it to the database or we get from the database or maybe any API calls. Pretty common scenario, nothing big deal here. So let's just say we have Mary and again, it is an object. So we're going to have few data so that we can work through it and can understand how things are happening. This is super useful in Firebase and Mongo, by the way. So I am Mary. And comma, let's just say age, we're gonna go for pretty young, let's just say 23, and we are gonna say is active, set that true, probably true. There we go. And now let's just move on and have one more. Just bear with me, just last one. So we're gonna say Sam is again an object. I'm gonna scroll it a little bit here, and first property is name, and it's gonna say I am Sam, no big deal there. I am Sam. Age, and we're gonna say pretty not so young, like 29, but it's almost young. Is active, and we're gonna say probably false, just for have something. Okay, so these are the three things that we have, and probably you might want to push them as soon as you get that from maybe any user interface or anywhere. You might want to push that onto. Now, pushing this kind of information can be a little bit tricky with especially the NoSQL database, maybe Mongo or Firebase. So what we can do, we can use this advanced data type that JavaScript has introduced it and can use some of its features so that we can fetch the things eventually with the database. So let me show you how this is being done. Now, in the recent JavaScript, we will be learning that later on that we do have now concepts of classes and stuff like that. So we will be taking advantage of it. Right now, let's just not go into the classes and concept of that. let's just use it. Okay, so we're gonna say let's just say we have users, and this users is an object that we're gonna create from map, and there we go. And that's how we do it. If you want more information, I'll be linking you with some documentation later on. Right now, this is how you create it. Now, simply, let's just say we have a log and we just use a type of, and I want to check out for users. So what type of data type we are actually getting in here? An interesting question. So let me just open up the terminal. We're going to go cd into 01 advanced, and let's just run this file, which is maps and 4.js, pretty long name. So there we go. We are getting an object. So map is internally, like for just right now, it's an object, but it's actually a map, and map is somehow related to the object, but it's a little bit different. I'll walk you through how it is being different. So what you can do is, let me just remove this line here. So what you can do in this users, you can use the property of map and can push some data into it. So what we do is we simply say, hey users, this is almost an empty object, and we use the property of .set. Okay, once you use the set, you can pass on key value pair so that the key value is something like you retrieve the things based on that. So similarly in the index, in the arrays, if we need any values to get back from it, we pass on index like 0, 1, 2. But in the key value pair, nothing is like sorted out. It doesn't need to be sorted out because you can just access any value by referencing to its key, and exactly what we are going to be doing here. So we do have this John variable, and I want to store that. So my key is John, and the value that you want to fetch it, you just need to separate it with comma, and you just have to say John. Now notice here that this John, which is inside the string and which is outside the string, are two different things. Okay, the first John that we have is key. I have made it up. I can name it John, I can name it Johnny, or can be a unique ID, whatever I like to have. It can be anything. But this John is actually coming up. We are pretending this is coming up from maybe some user interaction or maybe some forms or anything. So this is, I'm referencing to this variable. Okay, again, this is my made up. I have made it up. This is something which is coming up from user or maybe variable. Okay, so this set actually fetches this into this users. Okay, and I'll walk you through. First of all, let's have a couple of duplicates of it, and we're gonna say this is John, and I'm gonna just select that. Oops, I'm gonna just put my cursors there. And next we have John, and then we have Mary, and I'm gonna put my cursor there. And then we have Sam. Okay, again, the same concept goes up here. So now what this users is one particular big object which holds a lot of other objects as well. So we just need to push on one operation to this database, and that's it, it's done. Now, just to remind you that when you take any online database from any instance from Amazon or anything, they charge you based on how many operations you are performing, not on how many bandwidth or something. Like some people do charge on that, but usually it's based on operations. So the reduced operation you have, it's going to be good for you from the money wise. Okay, so there we go. We have good examples here. Okay, now what we can do is, first of all, we're going to have a simple log to see what users is, and the most importantly, what it returns us back when we want to use it. So let me just open up the terminal, clean it, and run that. So notice you are getting a map object this time. Previously, it was just an object, but notice this time when I'm running this users, this is automatically of type map. So as soon as you use the set command, then it converts this object into the map. So there we go. And just to give you one like teaser of the things, map always returns you an iteratable. So what is an iteratable? That's a good question. An iteratable is something on which you can iterate, or basically you can use your loops over it. So you are allowed to loop through it. That's basically it. Probably we'll have a separate video on what is iterators and generators and all of that. But as of now, iteratable, something on which you can iterate over or you can loop through over. Okay. And map actually returns you all these things. And now let's come back onto the question that how is it different from an object? One very, very big difference between the object and map is you can find out how many objects or how many entities are inside this map. You cannot do that with object. You have to use loop or some kind of trickeries to do so. But here, what do we have is just a size, and this is a property, not a function. Okay, this is a property. We just have to use it like that. Okay, Now this makes it super powerful so that I can know in advance that how many users I'm going to add or how many things I'm adding into the database. So I can just fire that up, clean the screen and run that, and notice there are 3 entities into it. This is one of the most powerful thing which makes maps separate from the objects. Okay, shortly I'll give you 3 more reasons. In fact, I'll be looping you through with the documentation so that you can read through them. Okay, so this is one of the biggest advantage of using the maps. Now I just have to pass on this users to my probably Firebase instance, and it can just set all the things pretty easily. So I know some of you might not be catching it right now here, but when you'll be learning Firebase or MongoDB or will be building an application, actually you will be thanking me there. Okay, let's just carry on. And we want to pass on some things here. So what you can do in case you want to access something particular, you can use a method known as get. In the get, you can pass on the key. And the best part is, previously my array used to look up for everything and have to go for a particular index or something like that. Exactly like that. In the array, I was using square brackets and passing like 3, like I want exactly the 3 index, whatever there is. In the get, use pair of parentheses, and there you can pass on key. The key is going to be this one, okay? John, Mary, Sam. So let's just say I'm interested in Sam. I can just have it, save that, and open up my terminal, run that, and there we go. So I have got this 3 is actually from the upper console log, but this is from like I'm Sam 29. So all the information I can fetch it like pretty easily. Okay, that is pretty cool. Now what else we can do? Probably you want to get, like, you know, there are 3 entities inside it. You want to get all the keys or maybe all the values. And yes, it is completely possible. You can do is you can simply say users and just put a dot. There are so many options there. And just like we got a keys as well there. So you can notice it says iteratable iterator. So it gives you an iteratable over which you can loop through, but right now we don't need to do it. We will do it shortly, but right now we don't need to do it. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out so that it doesn't really confuses us anything. So I'm going to comment that out for a moment, and we'll have just one console for the keys. So let me just fire that up quickly, clean the screen and run that again. So notice we have an map iterator, John, Mary and Sam, on which I can iterate and can get each one of them. Okay. And similar to this, we have got keys, we have got values as well that also I can run. Again, it gives me an iterator over which I can iterate. A lot of you might be getting confused. How can I iterate over it? Don't worry, have patience. I'm going to walk you through with that as well. So this is pretty good stuff. Now let me walk you through that, how you can loop through it, or you can say iterate over it. So that is actually pretty easy. Let's go for the new thing that we are learning here. First of all, for off, then I'll walk you through how you can do it with for each as well. So choose whatever you like, no big deal. So let's just say we are going to go for this for off syntax. So you have to first declare what is the iterator. And also one more thing, you will be seeing most of these iteratable are being iterated using for off because that is far more easier, but totally choice is yours. So what we can say is we can say for const, probably I'm interested in keys. So I'm going to say key in user.keys, just like that. I hope you get the syntax now. Users.keys, and there we go. So now, since this returns me an iteratable, this key is going to go through with each value of it. Okay, I hope I'm making sense here. And I'm going to simply say that print my keys, or just key in this case. So there we go. So I'm going to just comment this out for a moment, and we just have now one printout statement there. So there we go. If I just run that, notice now I'm getting exactly each one of them. So you cannot directly use it just with the methods of like this. When I say dot values or dot keys, you cannot use them directly in an actual program. You have to just say that this is going to be iteratable. So use a loop and just do some stuff with all those keys. Similar to that, similarly, we can have values as well, and we can change it like value, and makes sense when I change it to value as well. But there are a couple of issues that obviously you will be facing. Now this is an individual object, so you might want to print out some things in from it. So value dot probably we just want to get probably name, so we have to save that. And I hope you got the point how we can iterate through it and can get from each object. Very, very useful in case of interacting with the database. Okay, so this is like the basic stuff, and probably you want to get like keys and values as well. So yes, sure, we can do that. So let's just use the for off for getting that as well, and some important information you should get in for that. So what you need to do, previously we were using like one values. In case of this particular iterator and in the case of like this for off loop, some things do change, and that is you just use something like this key value. This is an array. Yes, you got it. This is an array. And also previously, now the question is, what should I say? Users dot key or values? Nope, you don't say any of these. You use something which is known as entries there. Come on, give me some suggestion. Users dot entries. And there we go. So it gives you kind of a key value pair, and you can just iterate through it. So pretty easy stuff, nothing a big deal. And we can just log it, and we can simply say something like this key, and then we can add on it key is gonna be, and I'm gonna give you a quick assignment as well, and we can say value. There we go. I can comment this line as well so that we can have just one. Save that, and let's just run this guy. And there we go. So we have got John as an object and Mary as an object, same. And obviously I have to use something like value dot probably dot name to make it much more sense, to pass on like exactly, you know, the basic stuff. We have done so much in the JavaScript. This should be super easy. Here's a quick assignment for all of you. Convert the above line in literals or string literals, if you like to say that. So pretty quick assignment. I hope everybody will be able to do it. Okay, now just for the sake of completion, we're going to do exactly the same thing using for each loop as well, because a lot of people prefer that. So that's why. And this is the second last stuff that I wanted to talk about. So we're going to say users, and since it returns you an iteratable, you can directly use for each onto it. And as we know, for each requires you to pass on a callback function, use your regular function, or since you have knowledge about these, what do you call them? Arrow functions. I was about to say fat arrow function, but somebody reminded me, don't call them. Okay, so these are arrow functions. So these arrow functions are going to take something like value and key. And then you can use arrow function and can just do whatever you like, probably just log them. And we can actually just copy this line. Copy, and we can just paste them here. There we go. And I think it's good. Okay, so this is this, and this one is this. I think it's good. And we have like this one extra. We don't need you. And we either don't need this one. So I think this is it. And if I haven't made a mess between these pair of parentheses, I think everything should be fine. Okay, so let's just run that, and we can actually comment that as well so that we don't have anything. Save that, and let's just run that. And there we go. John, Mary, and everything is being printed. Some of you might be worried about, hey, why this is value and key? This is how things works in the for each, and you know that stuff. And what happens if I replace this key and this as value? This can be interesting thing. Okay, so guess for a moment what is going to happen. There we go. So yes, some things, you know, needs to be like that. And for more, you can read the documentation. I'm not making these things up. These are exactly written in the documentation. Okay, so some things have like their own ways of doing it. That's why I usually prefer the for loop, because it makes for me much more sense for key value, not value key, something like that. Okay, one last thing that I wanted to talk about this maps data type, and a lot of people use it in that way, is when you have an array. So let's just say we have an array of array means I have an array of array, which is going to be something like this. This is an array, and I want array of arrays. Can be totally possible. Don't get confused. And it has something like this, 1, and is going to have another 1. Notice this is my first array. This is my second array. Remember, arrays of arrays. And this is going to be like 2, comma 2. And for just fun, let's have the third one, which is going to be third, or let's just have 3. And we are going to have 3. Okay. So now we have an array of arrays, and you will see some of the situations there. It's really hard to come up an example with that, but surely in the database they are pretty easy. What you can do is you can use var, and you can simply say new map, and this can be an object from new map. There we go. And what you can do is you can pass on directly this array and array of array, and it's gonna make these key value pairs automatically from these array of arrays. This is like one of the most beautiful things. So here's the simple assignment. I'm gonna just first of all print this new map, save that, and I'm gonna run that again. And notice we have map 1 1 2 2 3 3, just like that. So somehow it also returns you an iteratable, so loop through over it and print out individually, just like this one, like 1 equals 1, 2 equals 2. Okay, so there we go. So these are some of the basic stuff I wanted to talk about. I know there is one still confusing stuff, that what the hell we are doing when we are saying this new and map. Can be a little bit tricky, but notice this is something related which is to be classes and objects. We haven't talked about it. Surely we're going to do that in future videos. So that's it pretty much for this video. And I want to open this up documentation in front of you so that you can also have it. Where is my documentation? Come on. I haven't opened it up even. So let me just walk you through. And all you have to do is simply say map, JS, and our all-time favorite MDN. Hats off to Mozilla guys for making such a good documentation. And there we go. We have our map documentation. Notice it says iteratable. And this is whole description and all the things. Especially please read these 4 points or 5 points which makes object different from maps. Very important ones. One I have already talked about, which is size. You can predict the size or get the size, not predict. And all these other things. Iteratable, we have actually talked most about them, but I highly recommend to read at least these 5 points. Okay, so already this video is pretty long, but this map subject requires a full thorough discussion about it. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. In case you are enjoying this series, please do let me know in the comment section or on my Facebook page. It's your comment which makes me keep going and try to understand that, yeah, really my audience want this kind of series. I'm really happy that so far you have supported really well for this series. I'm really super happy about it. And you can support me even more by hitting that subscribe button and visiting learncodeonline.in. Catch you up in the next video.